Hey, this is Sean, and welcome to Mage Armoire's Summoning Circle. For those of you who don't know, Mage Armoire is an account where my partner and I create original content for use in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons games. It's my job both to draw and make stats for the monsters we create, so I thought I'd try something a little new. On this show, I'll be showing you my design process for a monster, both in terms of appearance and abilities. This is a bit of an experiment, so feel free to give us some feedback. Tell us what you like, what you don't, and anything we should change. Okay, without further ado, I give you... Smoke fills the air, stinging your eyes. Through your blurred vision you see embers fill the blackened sky as the torched earth ahead gives way to a burning grove. As the once sacred forest burns to the ground around you, a figure steps out of the smog, a short creature, elf-like in features but dripping with blood-red wax. This entity is the Bloodwick. Bloodwicks are nasty little fey creatures that can be created in occult rituals in which an individual fashions a candle with wax that is mixed with their own blood. Generally, the more blood the summoner includes, the stronger the Bloodwick. When the summoner finishes the ritual by lighting the candle, a fey spirit is bound to it, causing it to coalesce into the form of a wiry, maroon humanoid. Bloodwicks, although intelligent, live solely for the purpose of setting forest fires, and unless their summoners employ further magic to bind them into servitude, they have little regard for their summoners' wishes. A Bloodwick's greatest delight is to scour the most beautiful spectacles of nature, often making them strong allies to hags and other beings that hate beauty. So this is an idea I actually had quite a while ago, and originally I wanted it to be a sort of vampire, hence the blood. But once I finally got around to making it, Fae felt a lot more fitting. In terms of visual design, I really wanted to incorporate candles seamlessly into his appearance. I liked the idea of having a crown of candles on his head, and the eye candles seemed like an adequately spooky addition. From there, I wanted him to have a lightly armored, sort of acrobatic aesthetic, so you could imagine him flitting through the trees, setting things ablaze along the way. I gave him a larger candle as his main weapon in one hand, and I posed him so that it looked like he was conjuring a ball of flame to his other hand, almost like a firebender from Avatar. I kept the color palette, including the metals, mostly in the red, orange, yellow range, to keep with the fire theme, and colored him with some strong orange highlights. Oh, by the way, I keep referring to him as a he, but as fey spirits bound to physical forms, Bloodwicks can take on any gender expression that suits their personality. Regardless, Bloodwicks have slight, but well-muscled bodies, as they're fairly lithe like most fey creatures, and most Bloodwicks constantly drip with melted wax. Alright, time for stats. First, the 6 ability scores. I gave them average strength, as there's little reason for them to be particularly strong or weak. For dexterity, they have a nice and high 16, as they're fey creatures with the agility that embodies a wildfire. They have decent constitution at 13, as they're supernatural beings, but aren't extremely beefy. They have a slightly above average wisdom and intelligence, as they're smart enough to fight with a bit of strategy, but not quite smart enough to know when to run away. Charisma is an odd stat, but I sort of imagine it as her force of personality, which is how I rationalize the spell Banishment having a charisma saving throw. Bloodwicks have extreme personalities, with diabolical tendencies bordering on mania, so I feel like a high charisma of 17 is fitting, along with proficiency in charisma saving throws, as such a conniving creature is a hard problem to banish. Aside from that, as a powerful fey creature, the Bloodwick's magic uses its charisma score for its attack bonus and save DC. Next, onto abilities. First off, since a candle-themed monster would undoubtedly shed light, I thought it would be a cool idea for that radius of light to have an effect on the creatures around it. For that effect, I picked one of my favorite spells, Fairy Fire. Fairy Fire is a first-level evocation spell for bards and druids, and reads as follows. Each object in a 20-foot cube within range is outlined in blue, green, or violet light. Any creature in the area when the spell is cast is also outlined in the light if it fails a dexterity saving throw. For the duration, objects and affected creatures shed dim light in a 10-foot radius. Any attack roll against an affected creature or object has advantage if the attacker can see it, and the affected creature or object cannot benefit from being invisible. So instead of this ability being a spell the Bloodwick can cast, it's simply an effect that is triggered for anyone who steps within 30 feet of it or starts their turn there. Now I know this is a powerful effect, but characters get to save against it each turn, and like many monsters with this kind of debilitating status effect, once a creature succeeds their save, they're immune for a long time, in this case, 24 hours. I feel like this effect works thematically as a creature that's trying to spread fire and destroy everything around it, and also, come on, it's fairy fire. Those are like the two words that describe this thing. Next, I gave the Bloodwick a trait called Bloodburn, which allows its attacks to deal an extra 3d6 damage when a target is below half of its hit points. This is to incorporate the idea that the Bloodwick, well, burns blood. Its candles are fueled by the blood they're made from, so the fire it conjures is amplified when it attacks a creature that's covered in blood. For actions, it has a simple melee or ranged spell attack called Candle Flame, which it can use to set an enemy ablaze similarly to how a fire elemental would, causing them 1d10 fire damage at the start of each turn until they or another creature use an action to put the fire out. However, its final ability is probably the most powerful and thematic in its arsenal. Whenever a creature or object within 30 feet of the Bloodwick takes fire damage, the Bloodwick can cause embers to leap off to a creature or object within 10 feet, dealing 1d6 fire damage to the new target and causing it to catch fire, similar to how the Bloodwick's attacks work. This may not seem all that powerful, especially since creatures can make a saving throw to avoid it, but this is the way the Bloodwick spreads its flames so quickly through a forest. If it targets an object, that object is immediately set ablaze, letting the Bloodwick quickly turn the battlefield into a full-on wildfire. It can use this ability once per round, but as many times as it wants in a day, almost guaranteeing that every creature it's fighting is set on fire at some point. Furthermore, the Bloodwick can trigger this effect whenever any fire damage is dealt, including fire damage dealt by the Bloodwick's allies and even the party. All in all, the Bloodwick's stats reflect its wicked purpose, to spread fires as far and as wide as possible, and to ensure that nothing escapes unsinged. If you decide to put a Bloodwick in your campaign, consider the following. A Bloodwick will probably be accompanied by a few minions, like smoke mephits or fire elementals, which allow it to take full advantage of its leaping embers by dealing fire damage. Tactically, although it can attack from a distance, a Bloodwick is eager to engage in melee combat, since its fairy fire aura and leaping embers both have a range of 30 feet. Bloodwicks are egotistical and devoted to their goals, so a Bloodwick will probably ignore the party and spew flames into the surrounding forest until it's either damaged by the party or one of them steps within 30 feet of it. Bloodwicks rarely parley, but if they can tell they're completely outmatched and reduced to 15 hit points, they might surrender and attempt to negotiate, lying through their teeth just long enough to escape and keep their flame burning. If you want an encounter with the Bloodwick to be more roleplay heavy, consider giving them a motivation beyond maniacal hatred for beauty. Maybe they want to open a portal to the Feywild so they can burn it to the ground, or maybe they regard fire and ash as the highest form of purity and excellence, and spread fires not out of spite, but because they think they're making the world more bearable. I hope you're inspired to use a Bloodwick in your game, or at least a creature like it. This has been Sean White of Mage Armoire, and thank you for stepping into the Summoning Circle. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around until the end. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for future videos. The majority of the content we put out is over on Instagram, so be sure to check us out at Mage Armoire, link in the description. Did you like this video? Dislike it? Feel free to give us feedback in the comments on what you did and didn't like, and what we could change. Did you like the stats, or was it too in-depth? Do you like the drawing process, or would you rather not see that? Let us know. Depending on how this video does, we'll hopefully be making more video content like this in the future. Thanks again, and see ya!